that entire Ceemore plotline timeline. Now, if you guys don't know, a reminder, Ceemore was a guy that got all the privileges I wanted when I was a senior in high school and he was just a freshman, and everybody kept on pointing to him as the example. You're handsome just like him. If you would have just played it cool, everything would have just fell into place. When I've proven that wrong, not only in multiple videos, but multiple places in real life. If I could be myself, then Craig didn't need to move. Craig was a tall Filipino guy with green eyes just like me, who got our girl just by asking. And literally, they tried to pull this whole rule over his eye that he didn't do it with swag, that he didn't do it this and that, and a lot of people skipped. Even Arturo chose to go to a juvie school because he didn't like my high school. I didn't have a choice because I was a special ed, so Arturo told me, I'm like, damn, that sucks, I want to go to that school. But he's all like, no, you can't because you're in special ed, because it defeats the purpose, because we basically dropped out because we have poor grades. I'm like, fuck. Ceemore was a part of this generation of kids that literally thought they were gangster when I've already adapted to the people in the actual continuation school. And these people in my regular high school trying to pull the same thing. I'm like, dude, I'm used to fighting people 3 times your height. I'm used to everything being competitive. I'm used to every fucking day being a crack. There was nothing going on in Ceemore's generation. But on the outside, they always had the crispiest outfits. They still kept up with the music, but they just could not comprehend. They were not quick on their feet. It's like everything I've learned in junior high was shit compared to Ceemore's generation, because they literally grew up with Beebs and Tumblr, and they literally thinking on their feet doesn't exist. And it literally pissed me off. It drove me very insane. So Ceemore got all the girls, everything that I wanted, literally, and he was scrawny, he had no muscle mass, and he had basic wardrobe. He had a Uchiha symbol on his black jacket, wore a Pikachu belt, and people still accepted him. He was Mexican, wore a beanie, and he told me that he was God tier at Ultimate Ninja Storm. So Ceemore keeps quiet and literally, so I get to know him after he sees me on the school laptop looking up Naruto shit, and he calls out Obito, and I'm like, oh shit. And I didn't even know he liked anime because of how quiet he was. And now that I realize that is a bad strategy, because I try the same thing when I end the era. I'll try to learn from my mistakes from high school, that I'm not gonna speak at all because I'm not gonna put myself out there. That was Arturo's problem. He didn't put himself out there. He had all the benefits because he never took a risk, and he kept his shit completely straight. I'm talking about on the outside. What I mean by straight is that people knew he was goofy, but they couldn't call him out because he wasn't gonna leave himself open for long. And Ceemore just had this whole thing over his head due to all this validation that he was very inconsiderate of what I had to go through when I was his age. When I was a freshman, I was getting into fights after fights after fights after fights. And with Ceemore, he didn't get into one fight, he didn't get to anything, and literally, he didn't copy anyone either. So they compared me to the freshman year me that tried to copy somebody after he did something very popularly. It's like, oh, you did a second year of tryhard, you obviously have autism, this and that. And literally, so the thing with Ceemore is, because he's Mexican, he knows how things actually play out. And he can tell that I'm a tryhard because I'm not putting in the work to be gangster. Yeah, I have baggy jeans, I have this and that, but I have no rhythms of me selling drugs. I don't do any activity, and Ceemore knows more than anybody, if you try to put the gangster swag in the gangster front without doing gangster shit, it is a recipe for disaster. And he proved that exponentially by having a girl come to him that I tried to get at that rejected me. And I'm sitting over here, I'm forgetting everything that I achieved in junior high. I'm forgetting everything that I achieved with my entire life because of how shitty my sophomore year was, when everybody told me to play a sport, where everybody tried to tell me to do everything. So I finally do what Anti tells me, and I still get nothing. I'm playing a physical activity. I'm still wondering, yo, why is this shit so boring? Why am I still thinking about anime doing fucking wrestling practice? And literally, so he does nothing, but he has everything there. I'm like, dude, this is fucking insane. And so literally, he even has hot girls that like anime. He had girls his own age that were literally begging him to hang out. People people kept on making fun of me for being a special ed. Me and him went to the same special ed classroom, and literally bitches would knock on the door asking for Ceemore. I'm like, how the fuck does he get so much bitches just by being himself when society forced me a change? His whole life revolved around memes. His whole life revolved around everything that I couldn't have. He had the luxuries that I couldn't have. He had this and that. There was this one time where I tried calling him out, saying that he has it much easier. He's like, dude, I'm stuck with a metro job and this and that, and I get paid less than what I should be. I'm all like, you know what? At least you have a job at all. Me, I was being bruised by his first punchline because I couldn't understand how could a freshman surprise me so easily. Literally, every time I tried to tell him about the dramatic shit I've been through, I'm like, damn, you really want me to stay, don't you? Do you want this dick? And he's like, no, I just want some lube so it will go down. That's not funny. That's not clever. That's bullshitting yourself happiness when in terms of literature and everybody should perform by comparing yourself to somebody who's suicidal when everything's going your way. Of course you're gonna win that argument. And I'm all like, I hang up, and Ceemore's trying to convince me to stop trying to be suicidal. He has this impression on the outside that it could be way worse. I'm like, you don't know what I've been through. I couldn't say it at the time, but literally, I deal with people who fake tragedies just so people who feel sorry for them, and you literally are taking what you're seeing is like, oh, it's bad, and constantly trying to get shot. And so it got to a point, I had no clever comeback for Ceemore, but all I knew was, you know what, I'm gonna just make a bet, and I know I'm gonna win the bet, but I know he doesn't know what I'm talking about. And so I gave Ceemore the Kizaru speech. In the same day, I told him that, yo, you are too sheltered to understand. And you know, Ceemore came back with, yeah, well, at least I'm willing to fight to make a difference. And so I texted him back, I'm like, you need to train. You need to work hard. You can't just say words without gaining muscle, without putting into action. And Ceemore knows nothing about One Piece. And I tell him that because he's going to realize that later on that eventually somebody's going to try and fight him for having a fine-ass girl. And so that's the premise of me and Ceemore. Ceemore already got fatterized after I won the bet, but before then he was showing examples after examples that he couldn't live up to what he was saying. Like, there was a time where I invited him over to my house, and the first thing we do while we're smoking, I'm like, you know what, Ceemore? But before that happens, let's rewind that. I was watching Fairy Tail on the school laptop, and literally, so I'm watching it with Ceemore, and so me and Ceemore are watching Fairy Tail. He's like, dude, I really like your drawings on this. I literally try to talk to Ceemore because Ceemore is the new generation of anime watchers. And literally, he's literally like one step above the My Hero generation. Because he came when Naruto Shippuden was ending. So there was even this one time when me and Ceemore got high before class. I don't know, he might have had edible, but I smoked before class because I was doing it every day because I was a senior, you know. So literally, so me and Ceemore got high before class and we watched the episode of Edo Itachi versus Killer Bee and Six Past Naruto when literally that episode first came out. We were high watching that shit in class. So he comes over to my house and I invite him and we decide to play Storm to see if he actually lives up to his expectations to everything he's telling me why I lose online. And now that I'm older, I realized that I was being stalked by a clan the entire time. There's no way I have so many good strategies, yet I lose every time. And they're trying to say that I'm autistic and I'm making things harder than I need to be, when literally they're using a cheat code to surpass all my multi-dimensional shit. So the first thing, when me and Ceemore first load the bowl, we get high, and I show him my generation of anime. I'm like, Ceemore, check this out. And I show him the longest AMV he's seen, and it's Luffy versus Rob Lucci. Literally, schooled Ceemore in One Piece. The whole time, I chose a long-ass song for the AMV, like Fury of a Storm, Dragon Force, for the Rob Lucci versus Luffy AMV. And Ceemore is literally just sitting there amazed, literally. It looked like he was about to cry. He's all like, cool video. He's like, dude, if that was the original music for the anime, that would be so cool. And so, it came down to it, and when he finally faces me in Storm, I beat him 7 out of 10. I beat him single match too. But this is the same guy who's outclassing me at school, who's outschooling me. He's always calm, cool, and collector. I'm always having a mental breakdown, and they keep on showing the same lesson in my face, knowing damn well it's easier. And I realized that later that Ceemore was just a part of their plan, and that Ceemore was getting played by those girls, and they were doing it literally to get me in trouble. I earned this shit in 8th grade, and they took it away from me by constant cock blocking to the point where I believed it. Ceemore has no idea this happened. Ceemore had no idea that I knew Mr. Pedro ever since junior high. Ceemore has nothing on what I used to do because I didn't do it anymore because there was no point. And another way that Ceemore's insecurity and how he couldn't back up what he said was leaking was, there was this one time I was having my birthday party, and Lily, even though, you know, my family doesn't fuck with anime, they can tell what an entertaining fight is because I used to play Storm with Peter at all my birthday parties, and me and Peter would literally have the most entertaining matches. So Ceemore comes over to my birthday party and tries to show me a cheat code on Storm 3 that you can play the same character over and over again in order to unlock all the characters. And he literally cockblocked me for the amazing storyline of Storm 3. It was the most boring shit ever. Literally, Uncle Jay is looking at everybody like, dude, we know this shit can be better because even Peter made this shit entertaining. It was me and Peter. Peter would always choose the Raikage, and I would always choose Haku, and we would always have a speed match every single time. And Ceemore is literally spamming with Toby. He's literally, no, 10 minutes, no, 3 minutes, literally looking back in the phone, trying to look at the cheat code. Literally, how much longer does it take? And he's boring the fuck out of my family. Literally, when we're trying to play Storm, and they're still trying to sell me this dream that the way I'm living is better than getting pussy because at least I'm not getting targeted. I'm like, when people consider you a threat, it gains you way more respect than being a doormat. There's a better way of doing it, but when you're back in the corner, you have to insert dominance or else people are going to punk you. And when they see that you would rather die than be punked, they stop punking you because they want you to stay alive in order for you to be their slave. So all this example is, how can girls love this loser with no personality, with no nothing? He doesn't work on himself, he doesn't literally envision it before it happens, so he gets disappointed every time. It's because he doesn't ask questions, it's because he goes to the flow, it's because he doesn't know the big ass trap that they're saying for him. Ceemore suffered the same fate those 3 years when I was gone. Literally, I told him that it was gonna happen, and it happened. He even called me saying that he wished he would have made his move his freshman year because they all lost interest. And while they lost interest, everybody's game stepped up. I can tell because I was at the liquor store that's right next to my high school, and I saw all the kids out when school was over, and I saw all their expensive outfits with the Vans, with the colorful sweaters and shit. And I know Ceemore is still rocking that same right tee with those same black pair of jeans, and I'm all like, it's happening. This was horrible. I can see the flaws of Ceemore, but he literally has too much validation. He has this and that. And where it comes down to it, when I call Ceemore out, I'm the desperate one. So it's like I'm false preaching to him when I'm older, when I know that that's the truth. I know that I was constantly in the set because I earned it all the way back then. And they didn't want to let it go. And because I didn't hold on to the past is the reason why I got stuck in this rut where I was at. But Ceemore's always calm, cool, and collect, but Ceemore's this and that, and you're everything. You're a senior, you're supposed to be setting examples, bro. I'm like, you know what? When I got older, that wasn't a problem, but literally, that is where people lose their place. I never knew that anybody can get such cocky, because I've proven my dominance to Ceemore in a fight, literally 100 fucking times. Literally, I beat him in the arm wrestle with my pinky, and I still didn't get a fucking girlfriend. They're trying to hit me with this shit that it's out of context, and that's why I'm autistic. When survival of the fittest is a main premise to survive in this world. So at the end of everything, after I won the bet, literally, I told Ceemore the reason why he was full of shit, the reason why he was twice as sensitive as me when I was his age. I was never able to get away with the shit that he was getting away with, and he lived through it. He saw everything, and it literally disgusted me. And I'm all like, you know what? You don't know what's the truth about this world, and I just don't care at this point. You know, it's fucking dumb. You don't know what I had to go through. You don't know how hard I had to train, literally, for it to not matter. So literally, when I finally started to be content by myself, is when they started to say I was selling myself short and that I should start getting at them again, where I finally found peace.